Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Hello, what's that? Oh, hello and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, February 23rd, 2016. Mr. Clerk, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
We're going to do silence for Justice Scalia. Sorry.
Sure, can everybody get up? We would like to have a moment of silence for Justice Scalia, Supreme Court Justice that passed away last week. Thank you very much. All right, tonight's meeting, 6:30, organized pledge. 6:35, M&M Realty Trust is in to talk about Cooper property, and we're going to have an update on the town side from our town council. 7:15 is public input, members update. 7:30, public hearings for Anthony's Coal Fire Pizza. And 7:45, we have highway fiscal year 2016 snow and ice budget. Jim, you're doing a good job on that one. Huh? Keep the snow away. Procurement of highway fuel facility. Household hazardous waste intermunicipal agreement for Devons. 8 o'clock, public hearing for the Gallery Cafe. I gotta get my glasses on because. All right, there we go. Gallery Cafe, 529 King Street, Virginia Wood, manager. 8:15, a public hearing for application for valuable second-hand item license. 8:30, Town Administrator, Assistant Town Administrator Budget, FY 2017, Town Operating Budget, Staffing Priorities. May 2nd, Annual Special Town Meeting, insert articles. Other business, non-union management employee contracts, administration performance appraisal system, and finally, minutes approval. Mr. Bergman, mail.
Mr. Chairman, a few items. One is a notice about the Mass Municipal Association's legislative breakfast schedule of meetings. The first one in this region is this Friday morning in Framingham, and there's usually a pretty good turnout of legislators and state senators and representatives from the district at that meeting. Next, we have a request from Common Convenience for consideration for an additional all-alcoholic package store liquor license should one become available. We've got an article that we've drafted at request of another establishment to consider getting special state legislation to add one or more package store liquor licenses, and we will be holding a public hearing on that request at some point between now and town meeting. So we could take that matter up at the time. A couple of requests, just to make the board aware and to share information about it. The Littleton Country Gardeners will be conducting their annual plant sale on Saturday, May 7th at the Littleton Common, and we give them permission to do that each year.
Fully supported.
Also, it's the day before Mother's Day, as well as it being the town election day. So, the Harvard Firefighters Association has a memorial bike race, which has been the course has included a length in Littleton in recent years. This is the 7th annual race. The date proposed this year is for Saturday, June 4th. We have an update from the Littleton Police Chief with good report card for our local liquor licensing establishments. They conducted an underage compliance check sting of all liquor serving establishments in town, and all were found to be in compliance.
Nice. Hey, Chief, I see you back there. How did you do the operation? Was it a single vehicle going around, or did you have squads go out to each establishment?
We had several underage individuals go with the liquor enforcement agents, and They went to each establishment. They didn't go back and visit anybody until after they were all done, so the phone chain didn't start to warn everybody else. And it went quite well. We were really happy. As you know, we've had some issues in the past and had no issues whatsoever.
Nice. Is this the first one that your agents have done?
No, it's not.
Okay. How often are you doing them?
Typically, once or twice a year. The ABC kind of surprises us every now and again and shows up, and they don't tell us when they're coming into town. So we're trying to get some coordination with them so we don't have one and then have one a week later or vice versa. So.
Very good, thank you.
Then we have a flyer which we'll be sharing with the public for the kickoff event for the updating of the master plan, which is scheduled for March 2nd. That's Wednesday night at 7 p.m. And there'll be a lot of preparations for that event. And while I didn't have it in your written packet, I just brought as a show and tell that the town last week was officially designated as a green community under the State's Department of Energy Resources Program. I was pleased to have a number of members of the Sustainability Committee, Katie, Dawn, Ryan, and Jack were there as well, representing the town. So we appreciated very much their being there, and that it was a chance to thank them for all the work that they've done. So we have, here. So in addition to 4 of these street signs, which we'll be putting up, we also have this certificate, which is signed by the governor and lieutenant governor and energy secretary and DOER commissioner, which we will have in our office. So,
Outstanding.
and we will be getting one more prop soon, that big check made of styrofoam.
Most important one.
Which as well as an electronic deposit that will go to the treasurer, but there will be a ceremonial check that will be available for presentation to us for $140,000.
Nice.
For the program. So,
Outstanding. PJ, did you want to add anything on the master plan?
I was going to go on the updates, but
Okay.
so I can wait.
Okay. All right, so M&M Realty had come to us, asked to be put on the agenda. It was good timing. We had not updated the town in regards to the Cooper property as far as what the town has done. The last that we had it on our agenda, we closed the public hearing, and we had, as we stated previously, a right to go out and get an independent appraisal. From that point on, I'm going to have Town Council Tom Harrington kind of walk us through what the town has done since that time, and then M&M Realty will come up and give a small presentation. Mr. Harrington, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the board. Nice to see you. So I'll pick it up from the close of your hearing. So, I think at your September 14th meeting, you reported that I had obtained permission from the seller for the town to hire Prospectus LLC, an appraiser, to conduct an independent appraisal of the Cooper Farm property. That appraisal cost us $4,500, and I believe it was paid for out of Conservation Commission funds. So we're off and running on the appraisal. On October 29th, I spoke with the seller's new attorney, Mark Shire. Mark granted us further permission to have our appraiser go on the site to complete the appraisal. We had our site visit on November 2nd. You may recall that on November 6th, I sent you a letter that you had asked for, looking for various ways to acquire the Cooper Farm, and we talked about the current processes that we're in right now under 61A, the right of first refusal, just negotiating, and of course the third was an eminent domain taking. So about 2 weeks later, on November 19th, we got our appraisal report. The appraised value of the Cooper Farm from our appraiser was $1,950,000. The appraisal date is November 12th. Interestingly, on November 17th, the seller and the buyer entered into an amendment to their purchase and sale agreement. You'll remember that we received a copy of the original purchase and sale agreement back on May 5th, and that's what got this process rolling. So we learned later that that's when it was signed. We didn't receive a copy until January, and so what happened in January, around January 13th, the town was made aware that there was an amendment to a purchase and sale agreement. I talked to both the buyer's attorney and the seller's attorney to try to get a copy, and we went back and forth, kind of discussing various aspects of that. Until such time that the seller, or the buyer, M&M, came forward and said, we'd love to meet with the town. The town responded, we'll meet with you, but we need to see a copy of the amended purchase and sale agreement. We need the information to understand the position that the town is in. So they supplied us with a copy of the purchase and sale agreement, and we met with them it's either late January or early February. So that's kind of where we are on dates. So let me just touch a few other points. So after the meeting with M&M, I think we understand the following. The amendment to the purchase and sale agreement was executed on November 17th. Importantly, the amendment moves the closing date from September 27th, 2016 to July 5th, 2017. That's important because the town's right of first refusal, if it ever were to get a right of first refusal, would expire on July 1st, 2017. So they've effectively pushed out the closing date so far that they can wait the town out and never trigger the town's right of first refusal. We talked about if the buyer and seller, or if the buyer or seller would be providing the town with a new notice, and they will not, was the information we received at that meeting. Nevertheless, the buyer is requesting that the Board of Selectmen vote to waive the town's right of first refusal so that they have the comfort of moving forward on their project.
Sooner than the 2017.
Correct.
June.
Yeah. So, to understand what the amendment does, the amendment really looks like it's drafted just to push out the date. The amendment does not alter the proposed development plan for the property that was presented to the town on July 20th. And that would give the town approximately 9 acres along Great Road, the existing farmhouse for affordable housing, Habitat for Humanity, a walking trail easement along the perimeter of the property, and limiting development to 21 market-rate single-family homes and 12 units of age-restricted housing, 25% or 3 of which would be affordable. So that's where we understand the deal to be. So where's the town stand? So I've asked both the buyer and seller whether we could negotiate to purchase the property for the appraised amount plus, not for the appraised amount, but for their purchase and sale amount plus whatever M&M is out of pocket. They declined that offer. We've also been informed that they have no intention of providing the town with a new Chapter 61 notice. So unless we get a new notice, we're not going to be able to trigger our rights of first refusal. So as of now, we don't have a right of first refusal, and we have no ability to generate one. That's where we sit.
Okay.
Okay, any questions?
Board members, questions? Pretty straightforward. All right, thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
So now that's our update. We'll have M&M come on up and let's just have an update from you guys.
Of course. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Jennifer Platt, representing M&M Realty. We're right here. And as you know, M&M has a purchase and sale agreement for the Cooper Farm, and they proposed an open space development and would like to be able to move forward. The property is going to be rolling out of chapter status in the next 4 months, and then if we wait out a year, they can purchase it without a right of first refusal. We think this is a really great plan. It's a very good development plan, we think, for the town, and we'd like to do it a lot sooner. And we've been working, trying to come up with some incentives to make it happen sooner. One thing I do want to point out, the purchase and sale agreement says if the town waives its right of first refusal, then the buyer needs to provide a very long list of benefits to the town, including the 9 acres of open space up front, which is meant to preserve the view corridor, gives about half the space would be kept in active farming, about half of it would be for recreation, which could be a ball field. The existing residents on the house would be, or existing residents on the property would be given to the town or Habitat for Humanity, so it could be available as affordable housing to a qualified family. We would be providing space for walking trail easements. Again, this is all if the town waives its right of first refusal. And we would very much like this all to happen. I think these are great benefits to the town, but not ones which would have to be provided if we wait a year and a half. We've been looking at the plan to see what can we do to make it even better, because I know it's hard to make the decision and move forward, and we really would like your help working with us to to get shovels in the ground, get this project going. And we've talked about some things that we can do. For example, the buyer is willing to help prep that space up front for a ball field, something that's not required now or later, but we'd like to do. We've looked at the layout of the property, and if you don't mind, let's start with the old plan.
Paper to the wall. I have other
How's
copies, you want one up there?
No, we're good. We'll watch. Just do,
I put this up here if you guys can
sure.
sort of see it. We've got Great Road here.
So that was the existing one, Matt, the first one that she's showing?
This is the one you've seen
Okay.
most recently. And it has
There you go.
the ball field up front. You guys are awesome. And the open space here, which would be kept as active farming. We found a way, this is a septic field for this age-restricted housing. Actually, this is the new plan.
The new one?
That is the new one.
No, this is the old one.
Well, this one's the new one. But in any event, we can, it's on a string.
So this is the,
We can grant an easement or dedicate this space here,
So that was the existing
So
one,
in-
Martha?
along
The
with-
first one that she's showing? Okay. We're getting that time. Yeah, there you go.
No.
he's streaming. Is that TV?
I had it
Streaming.
mute mode.
that might be better than what we're
Yeah.
saying, so you might.
It's just us in delay.
It's a 5-second delay.
But it's, we can put on top of this septic area space for another ball field. So as long as it's not.
So you're talking this area here?
Yep. So next to, oh, I'm sorry, a
No,
little bit higher up,
this is the old
behind the lacrosse
I have the new
field.
one, do you want me to put it up on the wall?
Yes, please. So we can add an additional ball field, expanding the recreation area. And
Yeah.
we've been working with one of our neighbors. We have an agreement in principle to buy 17 acres to be in the upper left-hand. And contingent on putting this all together, if we can buy that adjoining property, they can get the permitting in place. We would like to move the 55 plus housing over to the abutting property and donate that 5 additional acres to the town.
The lower field?
Talking this area here?
So this area right here was a 5-acre plus area where the 55 and over was going.
And the 55 would go up here?
It would go up here. We have a agreement with Mr. Marsh on this portion down to the wetland line. We would move one lot over to here, leaving access for walking trails. And this is, if anybody's been out there, this is that beautiful field down in the bottom. We would move our 55 and over up here, which would also allow us to build an additional ball field right here.
Potential ball field on that
Potential ball
side.
field there.
at the end of the day, this would have about like 67%
Open space. on
open
Cooper.
space on this property. So about 22 of the entirety of the 34 acres would be dedicated to open space. And I don't think we have anything else like that in town that has that much open space along with a development. Again, we'd need your help. We'd like to have a post-community agreement where we are locking in those benefits for the town, and then in exchange, the town is letting us move forward.
Okay.
Is this septic in hand?
Yes, that is, that's,
Where's the tree line as opposed to,
there's a tree line right here.
right, okay.
On this side, and there's an additional tree line here. There's actually 2 fields in the front. And there's another tree line that runs right here.
And obviously, there's a lot of incentive both on the seller side and on the buyer side to do this now rather than waiting a year and a half. And lets the seller get paid and lets us get moving on the project. That's when we employ a lot of local people, provide a really great development to the town. It preserves that whole open space along Great Road as the view corridor. And anyone who knows the property knows that it slopes off from Great Road. So where the houses are, it's at a lower elevation than Great Road, so they're really tucked back. It's designed in a way to maximize keeping the beauty of the scenic view corridor up front, tucking the houses in the back. I think they have a very talented local developer who did a great job trying to preserve as much space on this property and still be able to build a few houses back there.
So, Matt, the Marsh property you're looking to acquire, does that tie into back of the horse farm?
Yes.
Will there be access to that,
I can't speak for Mr. Marsh.
or is it gonna be just your access through here?
I'm sorry?
Most of our
Is it
access is not
just-
going to be carved through, it's just, no.
Okay, I was wondering if there's gonna be a big, long road coming
No.
from Goldsmith Street all the way to 2A.
This is kind of a moving part type of thing, and I'll let Mr. Marsh speak on it as well. We have met with the planning board, and on his piece of property, he has, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, he has A&R approval for 6 lots, drawn up to show that he can get them there. So what he's trying to do, and we came together, is to do a cluster zoning up on the front. We're going to buy this back portion, and we spoke to the planning board for the cluster zoning to donate our portion to allow him to achieve his goal and to allow us to dedicate more open space, in the back here. This is a beautiful piece of land. It would be absolutely, without question, the nicest lots in the subdivision. They'd be tucked off the road the furthest, they'd be bound by trees, it's gorgeous.
Board members, questions? I mean, this is our first time seeing this, folks, so, as you're seeing it, we are too, so, I'm gonna have the board ask any questions, then if any of the members of the public would like to comment or have any comments about it, I'll open it up to the floor. Chuck?
Figured this out with Joe.
Throw your curveball, buddy.
Yeah, thanks.
Obviously, the plan as it sits looks better than if we wait till June and then till June of 2017 and you can do whatever you want and we don't get 9 acres or more if you did this plan here. So I also think that you benefit if we were to decide that we were okay with moving it up, that benefits you as a developer as well. So, and as a business owner, you want to get started as soon as possible, or you all want to get started as soon as possible. So, as we have this discussion, I'd like to see, you're proposing a second preparation of a ball field behind the first ball field, is that?
There would be an area for potentially another field adjacent to the existing area we have right now.
It's gonna be in this spot up here.
So
The difference with that ball field versus the other ball field is there'll be a septic system underneath it that would probably have to be, and I'm not smart enough with the legal terms, but it'd have to be something with like an exclusive use or, but it's very capable of supporting a ball field. And we have to grade it in such with the septic system anyways, that it's level and ready to go.
all right, just digesting all this right now, and I appreciate the effort, I appreciate Attorney Platt coming in and giving us this review. But as there is something in it for you, I'd like to see if there's anything that's in it for the town.
I
So,
think what we're offering is a huge plus for the town as it is now.
right, so I kind of want to identify what that is and take a look at the project as a whole. 67% open space is unprecedented, I think, as
As it sits
the
in the old
attorney.
project, it's over 50. And as I said, there's a lot of moving parts to make sure that we can do this plan. I mean, Mr. Marsh has to get his approvals, and we have to get our approval to make that happen. And, you know, I live in town, I love it, and, you know, it could be a much different development, and I chose not to, Michael and I chose not to do that.
Right. In moving the 55-plus, if you were to purchase the Marsh property and move the 55-plus development over to that property, is the same basic footprint? Is it going to be 12 units still?
No.
We would increase that to probably between 20 and 24 with 6 affordable.
So it'd still be, no, so that's,
And it's on how many additional acres?
It's on
It's
almost
double the acre.
17 instead of
17 acres instead of the 5-acre
So-
portion that it's on now.
between 20 and 24?
Yeah. You
All right, so you're looking at
gain an additional 6, you gain an additional 3 units of
Okay.
affordability. And we certainly have the septic capacity to support that, and we certainly have the area to support it.
So that's one of the things I'm looking for. So there's an additional 3 units that we would gain
Yes.
if we were to.
Goes to the housing inventory.
Other than that, at this point, I don't have any questions, but I'd like to reserve
Sure,
the opportunity to revisit it. Thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Avella?
Yeah, public math is always dangerous. So 21 original units of market value. Originally, we were looking at 12 over 55 with 3 being affordable. Now, by moving it, you're looking at 20 to 24 units. With how many more affordable, please?
The 25%. So
So
the
you
math,
put-
the math would be, the best number for us would be 24, where you
So
would,
that's
you would
6.
gain
Good
a
6, yeah.
total of 3 more units.
Okay,
At 20, it doesn't, the math doesn't work out.
yeah, at least not evenly, huh? All right. Even including Mr. Marsh's 6 potential, that would add up, we're at 53 to 57 total units or so, possible, between the 2 possible programs. Because you brought Mr. Marsh's name into this
Yes.
as, you know, part of the deal. And I'm just right now thinking total units in the town and affordable and working towards 10% or better. So it seems you've met that goal, in my mind at least, for others to decide. At least for me, the math is working out, because if it were 57 units and 6 total units were to be affordable, that's keeping us 10% plus.
Plus the existing residents, which would be donated.
And that's,
Affordable use.
that would be a 7th, so thank you. Yes. All right. Yeah, that's important to me personally, is that we do maintain that 10%, and plus, you seem to be contributing to that. We're all very clear on where we stand with the first right of refusal, and your ability to take this beyond any possibility of the town having an effort at that anyway, with taking out a 61A for the year or so and paying the rollback taxes. So I understand that. Okay. And I understand, so we're using the word potential a little bit. Something that I'd like to see before receive any kind of affirmative motion for myself is that everything is on one sheet of paper, to include even Mr. Marsh's. And again, you folks brought it into the equation, so I think it's part of the equation now. And if we see where you would like to put those 12 units or 20 to 24 units, the ball fields, it seems we've gone to plural now, so I'd like it to go from beyond potential to actually down on paper, and that'd be very helpful to me personally.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, before I go,
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Harrington.
So the news that somehow what the town is supposed to receive as part of the sale of the 9 acres goes away if we don't waive our right of first refusal is news to me. That's not how I've ever read the purchase and sale agreement or the amendment to the purchase and sale agreement. So I guess I'm looking to you, Jennifer. Can you just direct me to where, do we have the document that makes that claim?
You do, and it's on your website. There's an addendum to the P&S, Addendum A, which lists out all of the public benefits.
Right.
And right in that first preamble, it says, in the event the town of Littleton waives its right of first refusal, then the buyer is bound to provide, and then goes out to list a number of things. The change here is we're going from a purchase and sale that we thought would have closed already to something that's being pushed out a year and a half. As you know, for a developer, time has a cost. And whereas we think these are really great benefits to provide and really like the plan, when you change it and have to come back, if you had to come back a year and a half later, it's a different cost scenario. So whereas these are things that we'd like to do and we'd really like the town's help to get going on them, it would be something you'd have to reconsider for coming back.
Excuse me.
And you said it's in the addendum to the original purchase and sale agreement?
Correct. There's that whole page that lists out things that,
Addendum A?
Addendum A, that the buyer is agreeing with the Coopers. And as you can imagine, there was a lot of going back and forth, because these are expensive things for the buyer to provide, to give up this much open space on a piece of property, to donate, just the existing residence is probably a $400,000 piece of property that's being given to the town. There's a lot of value that was negotiated because we really respect the Coopers and what they've done. They really respect the Fields and wanted them to be the ones to develop this property because they thought they could do it in a way that would preserve a legacy for them, really sort of honor the property, and still let there be some development done. Everyone loves open space, and if they could keep it all 100% untouched, that can be wonderful, but you can't get money out of it doing that, either for the seller or for a developer. So, in their opinion.
We'll have comment, we'll have time for comment after, let's just
And I
get
think
through this
that's
process,
a good
please.
point, I think I overheard it there. The town did offer to buy it for about a little less than half of what the M&M is offering to pay for it, and that didn't work for them.
We offered 1.9, we offered 1.95.
Yeah, no, she's talking about the first
Yeah.
one.
And
There
that's
was
when the
never,
fields were brought in after.
there was never an offer to buy it. Is it in there?
Yep.
It is.
So does that clarify that
So if the clarification, Tom, is to make sure that after the June 17,
July 17th,
well, after June, July is when it's
July
actually,
1st, 2017, right?
it's null and void as far as the wishes of the Coopers, the 9 acres and all that?
I think that's right. It says, and the buyer agrees that it is a condition of the sale that in the event the town of Littleton waives its right of first refusal, then the buyer is bound to provide and offer all of the following, subject to minor modification as to size and lot configuration.
Okay. Thank you.
And what's the deadline for the town to waive
There is
in
no
that
deadline.
scenario?
There is no deadline.
Because the practical deadline would be prior to
There's no notice.
July 1,
1st,
2017.
Selectman Hebert.
I disagree with, I agree with what my other colleagues here have said, same points and questions, so nothing new from my side.
Mr. Knox?
I guess if there's no guarantee after that time goes by, that makes it a different, what's going to happen if the board doesn't act? And I think that's key, because we have something here that, I mean, everyone wants that land. This Cooper land is special, we all know it, and preservation of it would be perfect, but I don't know whether you can get, from what I can see right now, and this part of this is brand new, could we get something better? I look back to when we were talking to the people across the street, the Fletchers, when they brought something before us, and they wanted to build right next to the road. I think if the Fletchers had offered us something like this, we would have jumped at it almost immediately, because it does provide open space. I guess one question I would have to M&M is that, on those lists that you have from the Coopers, some of those items, is there any chance that we could change some of those items? Say, I'm thinking of the house, and I'm talking clear, this could be changed. Maybe the town, just for municipal use or something, could things like that be changed, or is that?
It potentially could be. It's something we'd have to go back to the seller and negotiate an amendment to the P&S, but we actually really appreciate having the input from the town. If there's, I mean, this is supposed to be a great project for the town, and if there's something, for example, that house, it has a much better use in a different capacity, I am more than happy to go back and talk to the seller and see if they would be willing to make that change.
No, that might be the best use. That's popped in my mind, and maybe,
We have Sherry Gould here that can answer those questions.
You said it correctly. The Coopers want benefits to the town to approve them, and they would work with the town as to the use of that house if it made sense to the community.
Thank you, Chair.
Anything else, Mr. Knox?
I'll probably have a number of things later
Okay.
on as it unfolds.
Yeah, so again, this is new to us as a board. This is the first time hearing it. The board has appointed Mr. Ravello and myself to take lead and deal with, sit down and negotiate or talk to M&M along with Attorney Platt. So I think for us, we need to kind of inhale and just think about what we're going to do and how we're going to move forward with this, because there's a lot of, as you said, moving parts. We want to make sure that we get the best we can for the town. And I think the devil is in the detail as far as I believe the attorney said a host community agreement is a very important document for this project to make sure that we, the Board of Selectmen, before making any decision, have something that we can show the town and say, here's what we have, as we've done in the past with different HCAs we've dealt with. So I appreciate you guys coming out tonight. I will open it up to the public. Let's stand up, tell us where you live, your name and where you live. And I will try and get everybody, so everybody can be heard. Let's keep it orderly so we can get through the night. Yes, sir.
My name is James Kennedy, and I'm a resident in the town. I also own a business. Some may know me as, president of the Littleton Business Association, but I'm not here for that. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to represent my family, my 3-year-old daughter, my 10-year-old son, my 12-year-old son. They all play active sports, whether it's soccer, or lacrosse, or football. My 10-year-old will be 10 in a month. My 10-year-old will be playing soccer this day. Not soccer, I'm sorry, lacrosse. And I know out of all the teams in the town, lacrosse was the last one to come in. And they're the ones that are having the hardest time with getting open space for playing. So I'm a little nervous about that, and I hope that my son has some good practice time, and I hope we can come up with the space. And this sounds like it's a doable situation. I think that the developers have come up with some great options for the town. Now with that said, my wife has a family who's active, been involved with farming. So her grandfather had a farm. She's a farm girl, so I married a farm girl, so I'm a little disappointed at seeing all this beautiful farmland disappear. We really moved to this town with the thoughts that nice farmland. And when we drive in on Great Road, we see some beautiful farms. So little mixed emotions about that. It's all this beautiful farmland just disappearing. So I'm hoping, first of all, I'm hoping that we get the parks, you know, for the kids to play. But I also hope that there's a lesson learned here. To get more actively involved in managing our space. I'd like to see the town put aside money for preserving some of the farmland for the future. I'd like to see funds being raised for that. I think it's a worthy cause to preserve our farmland. So I'm a little disappointed in that. But, you know, as Board of Selectmen, you really can't single out one developer. It's just unfair. You know, there's hundreds of acres here potentially that you could have a developer tomorrow that wants to buy Gary's farm or, you know, Springdale Farm. These are beautiful farmlands. We're just not ready to buy all that space. We don't have the resources to do it. So it'd be good if we start the efforts today to preserve our open space. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I'll come to you, George.
Last year when...
Name and
Oh, I'm
address.
sorry, Eileen Martino on Goldsmith Street, 94. Last year when all of this came about, I was at a meeting where I heard it said that the cost of developing the land would bring $1 million a year tax burden to the taxpayers. And whereas the towns acquiring the land would be one upfront cost. I'd like to have your comment on that. And considering the way the taxes have increased this year, I mean, my little house, taxes went up $900 this year. I'm concerned about increase in taxes from that perspective. Your comments, please.
Okay. I don't know what meeting you were at that
Upstairs.
developing the property was going to be $1 million tax burden. If we bought the I'm sorry?
Yeah, $1 million tax burden a year.
Yeah. If we bought the property, it would be a debt exclusion where we would have to increase taxes to pay that debt off. Once the debt is paid, there's no longer any payments. Depending on who moves in will dictate what the cost to the town will be for services, schools, and such as that.
Would you be able to calculate that ahead of time?
We don't know who's moving in.
Would you know what kind
Go
of
ahead.
property is going to be developed?
The other thing to take into consideration is the town doesn't have the opportunity to purchase it.
At this
But I can
point,
address the $1 million a little bit. It'd be helpful as to which meeting and who the speaker was, so we could cite it and go to that person for the exact facts. But that aside, when 15 Great Road was in the development phase 3+ years ago, in fact, Chuck, you did quite a bit of the research, number of children that would come along with that, it fluctuated between, and there's 200 units there, anywhere between 80 and maybe 150 or so children. And the way the calculations were done, went around to various communities and looked at some other similar type developments as to how many children had moved in previously with some of those, whether it's a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartment or condo. Speaking specifically to 15 Great Road for the moment, tell you at least the mechanics of how we came up with some of these calculations. And looking at how many children, the anticipation in 1-bedroom family, probably no children. 2 units to 3 units, 1 to 3 possibility. But that's not on average. In fact, we can go into many of the larger homes in the communities here, and we'll certainly find a couple, 3 children in some of the homes. But then in many of the other homes also will find 0 children in the home, whether it's a starter home for some of the young folks or some older folks. I don't want to say older. Somebody like myself and my wife, as to in our family, is the number of children we have, and that's 0 personally. So we look at that and start calculating across the line. These numbers that are being presented here today, because the 55 plus we anticipate, certainly a possibility children could come in with that, but perhaps the number of children would be low on that. But 21 regular 3-bedroom type family homes, we could anticipate it could be up to maybe 40 children. We look at in a perfect straight line across the entire school system, and we haven't talked about police or fire yet, but just the school system. I don't want to say easily absorbed, but it can be absorbed. Certainly it affects classroom ratios, there's no doubt about that. but nothing's in a straight line. There's going to be random distribution where it's going to scatter around, and it may well require the hiring of another teacher because of another classroom. There's another side to that, too. You happen to be a very fortunate school system here in Littleton. We're a plus choice. In other words, more children choice into the town of Littleton than choice out of the town of Littleton. Hate to say that's a revenue stream, but quite frankly it is. So if we had to open another classroom because we had 5 or 6 children too many in a particular grade, we would open up those grades now to a choice. And there's an opportunity for children to come into the town and revenue. So the $1 million, I'm not going to be able to tell you tonight it's $100,000 or it's $10,000. I can certainly assert that it is not $1 million per year as a tax burden because of this project.
Thanks, PJ. Any other questions? Jerry?
Jerry Oakbury, New Estate Road. I listened to this tonight, and the thing that really hurts me the most is not the developer, it's a great project as shown, but it's the fact that the seller, for whatever reason, is going out of their way to cut the town out of it. To guarantee the town can't purchase the property as open space. And to me, that hurts. It just shows how weak 61A really is. And as far as the $1 million, that was an estimate, I remember hearing at one of these meetings in regards to total infrastructure costs as being in excess of taxation. And time and again, we hear that most residential development does not pay its own way.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
John Bergeron, 92 Gristmill Road. I'm also the president of Littleton Youth Lacrosse. Two things as I just listen in and I'm getting more educated on this. The first one is I'm always a believer in control what you can. So, I mean, it sounds to me like this is kind of simple in that if we time out in 2017, that making it and getting an agreement that is as favorable to the town, frankly, as can be, is something you want to pursue right now. It seems to me that the developers have gone out of their way. Certainly the lacrosse fields caught my eye. As you all know, we've got a lot of kids playing in a small amount of fields, and if you haven't had a chance to go visit the fields, I invite you to go to the middle school. I'll volunteer to chair a field trip for anybody who wants to go, and we can all go pick up the rocks and stuff that, either you're pulling them out of the soil or you're pulling them out of your kids' knees. We've got a real problem. So my opinion and advice would be to go ahead and find a way to work with it. And Mr. Bell, I thought your comment about could we get it all put on one piece of paper with all of the designs, including all of the land, is probably the next prudent step. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Just make a quick interjection.
Sure, go ahead.
A couple of my kids play lacrosse, and my 10-year-old, Brady, will not play goalie at a home game because when the other team scoops up the ball and throws the ball at him in the net, he gets rocks in his face. So thank you for bringing that up, John, because it's definitely something, I mean, he literally will not play goal at a home game. So it is an issue, and it is something we need to address. It's not necessarily going to be addressed with this, but I appreciate you bringing it up.
And it has been an issue for a while, too.
You're correct.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Dustin Neal, Lakeshore Drive. I can't see the map from across the air. Does it specifically say lacrosse field on it?
No.
Okay.
It does
I'm
on the
curious,
original.
the Lacrosse Association was publicly announcing that you guys were making some kind of vote tonight, which I thought was a little bit curious because it wasn't on the agenda stated that way. I fully agree. I totally want more sports fields too, and I feel like the town's put us in a difficult spot where one need has to compete with another need. So I think that puts all of us kind of at a disservice. That said, just want to put out there that there's been some things missaid on the record, right? Which is that you can't pay for this stuff, right? Which isn't true. There are community preservation funds. There are groups like Sudbury Valley Trustees that the Littleton Conservation Trust works with to try to appropriate funds so that even if a purchase for the, say, $1.95 million were able to be pursued, that's not a $1.95 million cost to the town. So we need to put away these false assertions that there's no money to pay for stuff and that the town only offered a low amount, which was before the developers were in offering a different amount. Let's speak in truths and allow the town to make responsible decisions on that. We teach our kids many valuable rules in athletics. The rules around Chapter 61 is that the intention of that law is that, or program, I don't want to say a law, but of the program is that towns get the opportunity to conserve lands. And I think that allowing groups to come in and circumvent that process with good incentives, I'm not questioning those things, but it sets a very bad precedent to allow groups to come in and willingly try to circumvent that process and not even give the opportunity for conservation a fair chance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Yes, sir.
Rick Finley, Beaver Brook Road. I just was wondering if it would be possible to get a win-win situation to preserve the whole front as agriculture and move the playing fields down into the bottom where the 55 was. The committee that I was chairing originally had basically decided that would be the best place for the fields. And it looks like there's room now with the 55 gone and the ability to put a field over the 70.
So I think, Rick, again, as I stated earlier, in the HCA, it's very important to have those types of details. And, we hear that word field. What does that mean?
Exactly.
Does that mean a done, complete constructed field, or is it a hay field currently and turn it to the town and said, now you can make it a field? So those are details we'll have to work out, or see if they can be worked out, so I hear you. Any other questions, comments? I'll come right to you. Go ahead.
John Tully, Berry Bush Road. There was a mention made earlier and in the previous hearing also of eminent domain. Has that been ruled out totally? The town seizing the property by eminent domain?
Yeah, I don't think that, I know personally, I'm not in favor for taking anybody's property. So I can't speak for the entire board.
Agree.
But I'm not looking to take anybody's property.
Okay, that was one of the possibilities I thought.
That was one, you are correct.
But you personally and the board is not in favor of that.
Members?
I'll say I'm not in favor of it. If there were a very specific use where we needed to do something, where we needed to put a wastewater treatment plant in or something like that, we needed to acquire the land,
But
I would consider it.
Conservation wouldn't, in your opinion, be that fair?
For eminent domain? No, even with the wastewater treatment, I would have a tough time with eminent domain, personally.
And you asked, I actually very strongly have said eminent domain has to be some very rare circumstances that we would imply or use that. That's what I said.
I agree. Taking someone's property is a very aggressive step, and we'd have to have a very critical need to do that.
Mr. Knox, any comment? All right.
I'll echo it, same thing.
All right. Yes, sir.
Hi, John McIver, 43 Foster Street. I've heard various things, and I know town council has been surprised with some of the representations and so on. We're hearing something for the first time, as you point out, we don't really know how it fits together. Well, has the town received, I hear an oral request, what format has this request come through? Is it just orally here, do we have anything in paper, or?
The request for a
what?
waiver is verbal.
Even some of the plans.
Yeah,
Verbal
So
request and no
one
plan
of the things
submitted.
we'd be looking forward to a request, in addition to your one-page summary. I think that's good for the policy, but we're looking for some sort of documentation, I
Yeah.
guess, if I hear you correctly.
Okay.
Secondly, it's worthwhile pointing out that, I agree with problems with insufficient fields. I think everyone agrees with that. There's no question about that. But then there's the question about where does one put it? And, the planning that goes into it. And we do have open space recreation plan committee that, hasn't, people don't seem to come to that to express interest. But I know that people have tried to accommodate various things, and some of the accommodations haven't been, I guess, the ideal situation. We know there's a area space for a field in Delaney Drive. I know when we developed that.
Don, can we keep it to this specific property? We can have field discussion at another time. This is about the Cooper property and M&M development and what we saw here tonight,
Right,
so
they're offering
stay
extra fields.
focused on that.
I've heard that we need fields. I'm
Okay.
addressing that. There's also, we've opened up the Morgan property, gave funding. That's sort of been dropped. I don't know where that is. And also, being on the planning board, unanimously, we voted $1 million for active recreation as mitigation for 15 Great Road. And there's other areas in the town that's being developed, such as Village Common, I guess one would call it. And so, it strikes me there are some tools here for actually delivering the act of recreation. This is not the only place, so there are some tools out there. If there was some leadership to figure out how to put it together, that would be helpful. That might meet the needs. I do feel bad for the people in the sports fields, and I deal with people on my committees that have kids that play on it and they complain about it. And it's a real concern. There's no question about that. But we do have some resources and tools that could solve that problem. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Any others?
That was $100,000, by the way.
For the 14, yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Jade Rankin, King Street. I'm trying to understand, is there absolutely no way that the town can make some sort of a counter offer to the sellers for this property? Is that barn door been?
Town council, I'll let you handle that.
It's been made and rejected, and I don't see an opening. I mean, we can go back and ask again, but I would expect the exact same answer again.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Gary Austin, 162 Whitcomb Ave. If there is no other options and they're going to build, why don't we get the best bang for our buck out of their build? By letting them develop what they see on this plan here, instead of waiting and prolonging that we might get nothing out of it, and all the homes will be up in front of the street. So you lose that whole view.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Anna Mayer, 29 Juniper Road. I have a concern that if all the open space is left to the front and then you have development all around it, we have a view, but we may not have the best arrangement for wildlife. A corridor that...
You actually have this open space in the front, and then this is where the residences are, and then all this space in the back is open, and that actually, my understanding is, that connects to this corridor back here. So you really have...
You mentioned putting the field
that's
back where your 50B is.
So a playing field would be up here, closer to the front, behind the other proposed playing field on what is a septic field. So getting multiple use, double use out of that chunk of space.
So I'm sorry, what was the front used for?
This
chunk,
is
yeah.
for, so this is Great Road, this is farming. That's going to remain in active farming.
Okay.
That's for recreational use. We have our houses here, and then all of this remains open space in the back.
Okay, thank you.
All right, yes, sir.
Just one question. So the town made an offer of almost $2 million to buy this. Is that offer available for other farms?
Only if they come,
Case by case.
only if they come available. We don't go around asking, or we haven't gone around and asked everybody, it's up to the seller. It's up to the seller.
Another purchase and sale agreement?
Well, it's up to the landowners to want to sell their property.
I understand. Thank you.
All right, so I see no other hands up, so what I would suggest, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Kate Cooley, 58 Goldsmith Street. I may be reiterating what's already been said, but what has really flavored this whole process over
We could open up the public
since when
hearing
it
at
first came
7:30, and then we'll
forward
just
last
suspend it.
spring was talk of athletic fields. And I feel like one faction of the town has basically been pitted against another faction. And I feel like it's been a very divisive process, which is really disappointing and probably not too healthy for the town in any way. And I understand that our athletic fields are in terrible shape, and I'm very sympathetic to that. And I feel like that's a completely separate problem that we should, as a community, work together to address. And I feel it's really been used as a wedge.
Okay, thank you. All right, seeing another, what I'm going to do right now is we have a public hearing at 7:30. I'm going to open up that hearing, and then we're going to suspend it and come back to it. You got to leave too, right? All right, so Prior to moving on, let's open up this hearing and suspend it and then come back to this. And before we come back, we're going to take care of Mr. Knox. His son is here from California and is leaving today, so he has to step out. So we have one agenda item that has to be taken care of prior to him leaving. If we could open up that hearing. Mr. Clerk, could you read that for us?
Public hearing, all alcoholic beverages license application, Anthony's Coal Fired Pizza of Littleton LLC, doing business as Anthony's Coal Fired Pizza, 495 Great Road, also known as 201 Constitution Avenue, Littleton, Mass. Littleton Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, February 22nd, 2016 at 7:30 p.m. in the Littleton Town Offices, Room 103, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Massachusetts, to act on all alcoholic restaurant license application under Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 12, submitted by Stephen Barta, manager of Anthony's Coal Fired Pizza of Littleton, doing business as Anthony's Coal Fired Pizza for the property located at 495 Great Road, also known as 201 Constitution Avenue, Littleton, Massachusetts, and known as The Point, a mixed-use development comprising of 7 lots and approximately 90.27 acres of land shown as parcels 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, 1-5, 1-6, and 1-7 on Assessor map. The applicant is seeking approval for the sale of all alcoholic beverages Monday through Sunday from 11:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. at the premises described as approximately 3,058 square feet, located on the first floor of a single-story building with 3 entrances and exits, and outdoor patio service at 495 Great Road, also known as 201 Constitution Avenue, Littleton, Massachusetts, assessed as map R18, parcel 1-1. Comments therein may be submitted in writing to the Selectmen, Town Administrator's Office, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Massachusetts, by noon on Friday, February 19, 2016. All in persons at the hearing. Littleton Board of Selectmen, James Carr, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I'd entertain a motion to suspend this hearing at this time.
Second.
Moving and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So, later on in the night, we had some management contracts, non-union contracts that are, we're going to be have been negotiated in front of us for approvals. The only one that's time-sensitive is the town administrator. And we've had our opportunity to review the contract. Are there any questions? The major change in the contract is tying the appraisal of performance appraisal into the award of any type of raises, be it cost of living or a step raise, so that satisfactory performance appraisal has to be done, and then the award gets made. Comments?
I think that's a great addition. Let's do the review before we make the raises.
So I would look for a motion to approve the contract of the town administrator.
I move to approve the contract of the town administrator.
Yeah, what are the dates, though? What's it?
Oh, I need to do the actual one? Okay, I got you. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote as appointing authority for the town administrator that said employee's performance review shall, no, wrong one.
9A.
9A.
I have a 9A.
There you go.
Thank you. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to authorize execution of contract extensions with the following management employees whose contracts expire
Right down to the bottom. There you go. For the town,
expire here and here.
for
September 10th, 2016 through September 9th, 2019, Town Administrator Keith Bergman.
Second.
moved and seconded, all those in favor? I'm sorry, go ahead.
A little bit more information to
Yes.
the folks. Because we always talk about budget items.
Yep,
Salary items at this level, I think, are important, that folks should be aware of them,
sure.
that we're voting on them. And Keith, you know the process well as a public employee. And if with your
Yes, indeed.
permission, I'd like to read where the annual salary will be.
Sure. Go ahead.
It'd be effective the 10th of September of this year, and it'll be corresponding to grade 15, step 6, on the personnel boards, the town's personnel board's step system that was approved by town meeting many times as we've looked at additions each year as we go along, or amendments. So that grade 15, step 6 is $126,950, and then it would go to step 7, which is $131,397, and then finally on July 1st of 2017, the third year of the contract, $136,000 and $12, which is a step 8 on the grade 15. And again, this has been approved at town meeting by the personnel board, presented there as to what our step system would be here in town. And the town administrator grades out at a grade 15. So,
Subject to a satisfactory performance appraisal. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you there, Mr. Knox.
Okay, dinner.
Yeah, you can go, you can go. Your son's leaving for California, I'd leave. So, to get back to the Cooper property and M&M, I'm gonna make a suggestion that this board set up a meeting with M&M and its attorney, along with town council, town administrator, Mr. Ravello, and myself. Take in what we've heard tonight, sit down, try and codify some type of host community agreement so we can bring it back to the town and
It's just him.
let you all know what we've, developed. As Mr. Avella said, get it all on one piece of paper or two pieces of paper so we can present to the town. Any objections to that, members? All right, so if attorneys can talk, set the date, and we'll sit down. Any questions from you folks? Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want these?
Please.
Yes, please.
I just have a question about process.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Carolyn Bean on Oak Road. Do we have the opportunity, because I don't know what my feelings are on this, I'm very conflicted right now. But can we do an open letter writing as we did?
Absolutely.
previously? Okay.
Absolutely. Always direct it to the town administrator's office, and he forwards those letters to us.
Part of the process.
Absolutely.
If we didn't speak up today, we can still speak
Yeah.
up.
Yes, you can.
It may be well that if there is a host community agreement, a draft form, that we would want to specifically invite public comment on that document
Sure thing.
at a particular time.
Yeah.
No,
no.
Suspend this, we can continue this.
We're going
All
to,
right, folks, we have to get reconvene into a public hearing. If you can carry your conversations outside, thank you very much. Yes, please.
Thanks for your job.
You got it.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
And do we have the Anthony's Coal Fire Pizza? Here we are, come on up front. Anywhere you'd like.
Stand, sit.
Yeah, you can go. No.
No,
Whatever you're
you're all
comfortable with.
set. Tom's all set.
So we're going to reconvene the public hearing for Anthony's Coal Fired Pizza, all alcoholic common particular license, 201 Constitution Ave. Chief, so why don't you introduce yourself, let us know what your establishment's going to be and when you're going to open.
My name is Caroline O'Connell.
Thank you,
I'm
Paul.
representing Anthony's Coal Fired Pizza of Littleton. I anticipated opening date is sometime in April. I heard April 1st originally, but they're building out the property, so it may, I don't know if it's going to be definite April 1st. But if you want to hear a little bit of background of who we are, what we do.
Please.
Anthony's Coal Fired Pizza is a chain of restaurants that does, pizza, family-friendly restaurant. They do pizza, meatballs, salads, subs. The ambiance is really kind of, they have a collection of local microbrews. It's family-friendly. There's sports and various other sports and news on TVs. It's a chain of restaurants. It started in Florida. There's 50-something locations. This would be the 4th location in Massachusetts. They have one that opened in Reading about a month ago, in Westwood in the fall, and one in Northborough that will be opening probably in the next month or so. So they're really trying to expand into Massachusetts. The two things that make them stand out a little bit is they do coal-fired pizza rather than brick oven or various other forms of pizza. It's a nice hot crust, and everything that they have on location is made on location, is fresh. There's no freezers, there's no frozen produce in the restaurant. The location is going to include a patio as well. And the way that they set up is they have the restaurant location, they have this kind of indoor-outdoor bar and a patio, so that you could sit, the bar goes all the way around, so you could sit kind of like at the bar, but still be outside. About 4 seats on that and 16 seats on the patio. That's kind of a general description of what Anthony's is.
Okay. One I'll let the members talk. Chuck, do you have any questions?
Just based on the drawing, it looks like the outside area is contained,
Correct.
fenced in, chief, if you've looked at it, and okay, that's my only concern is that there's going to be alcoholic beverages outside, that there is a delineation between the outside world and...
And this is their third location with patio in Massachusetts, so they've gone through various other boards, and they have someone in Massachusetts who specifically knows how to do, go by the patio requirements in Massachusetts.
Perfect, thank you.
PJ?
Super quick ones. You mentioned ingredients, fresh, local. You may have heard in the last discussion, we have a lot of farmland, lots of great places to go shop locally for those ingredients, so I'd encourage.
They know that.
Thank you, and we can certainly get you the names of farmers.
That would be great.
Absolutely. Curious, do you guys do delivery, or you just eat it?
Take up.
Take out, okay.
No.
And gluten-free options?
That one, you got me. I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure they do have it, but I don't have the menu memorized, so.
Okay, just curious, just being nosy, really. Okay. That's all.
Okay. Chief, any issues?
No issues at all.
Okay.
There's been no issues in the other communities that are open and running, and I'm talking to the chiefs and Deputy Patterson did the background, so we're set.
Very good. All right, so I'd look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that being said, I'd look for a motion for the Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza, all alcoholic beverage license.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the applications of Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza of Littleton LLC, Stephen Barter, manager of doing business as Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza for 201 Constitution Ave, The Point. 1, for an all-alcoholic restaurant license under Mass General Law, Chapter 138, subsection 12, for the sale of all alcoholic beverages Monday through Sunday from 11:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. at the premises described as a single-story retail space identified as Unit D21, with approximately 3,058 square feet located on the first floor of a single-story building with 3 entrances and exits and an outdoor patio service with issuance of said license to be subject to ABCC approval and passing all local inspections. And 2, for a common particular under Mass General Chapter 140 subsection 6 license for the same premises.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank
And on
you.
one administrative note, I have the abutter certification.
To
Whoever
Jen,
would like
yep,
that.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. All right, members' input, public input. Any public input? Yes,
Real
sir.
quick, this weekend at Saturday night at Billiards and Air is the K-9 Foundation's first fundraising cornhole tournament, so.
Oh, nice.
Getting his T-shirts for sale and everything else.
On your website too, chief?
Yes, it is.
Nice.
It's on the Facebook page too.
Okay.
Saturday night
Saturday night.
at the Billiards.
6 o'clock till lower. There's a bunch of raffles, there's the cornhole tournament. The tournament actually has a grand prize of a trip to Las Vegas for 4 days, or for 3 days for 4 people.
Oh, nice.
It was donated to us, and there's all sorts of Red Sox tickets, Bruins tickets, all sorts of different things.
Nice. Thank you.
I'll be there. That's it for me.
Any updates? Okay. Mr. Ravello?
Yes, please. As Keith mentioned earlier this evening, Master Plan Update Steering Committee is hosting the kickoff meeting with our consultant, RKG Associates. That'll be 2 March, right here in this room, 103. Again, 2 March at 7 p.m. We've invited various other boards and committees to at least send representatives to be a part of this process, and definitely welcome the community at large to come on down. So, 2 March, 7 p.m., right here in room 103. Master Plan Update Steering Committee kickoff with our consultant, RKG Associates. Thank you.
And if I may, just to that
Yes, sir.
point, right to that last conversation about priorities and getting on the same page as a town on what we want to go do, the master plan process is here to guide us through that. So it's so important to be a part of that conversation so that when we have situations like the last one, we are all on the same page. So just echoing PJ's, come out and join us, please.
Hopefully Jim Kennedy will be there for you. You all set? So, I just want to say happy birthday to my mother. She's turning 90 years old, March 1st.
You should sing.
She is, no, I'm not going to sing. No, She raised 8 kids in this town. She's a wonderful person. She comes here to the COA and has a great time. The COA does a fantastic job down here for our elderly. So happy birthday, Mom, and I love you.
She's a sweetheart.
You maybe missed it.
I know. Our little Jimmy.
I know. All right, 7:45, Highway. Fiscal year 2016 snow and ice budget. Show us the sun. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Sure, this is the annual authorization that's needed in order to tap into the budgeted deficit that we provide for annually for snow and ice removal. We do plan for, or budget for the expenditure of about $650,000 each year, $200,000 by way of an appropriation at town meeting, and a budgeted deficit of $450,000 by way of setting the tax rate at the end of the year. We have just about tapped out of the $200,000 legislative bills that are coming through now. So in order to pay the next round of bills for the next storm, we're going to need to have the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee authorize the access of the deficit.
Gotcha. Questions, members?
I would just ask Bonnie to explain why we use that process and not budget the entire 650.
And that's something that's asked very frequently. And the reason is if we budget $650 by way of an appropriation and we don't use it, and we want to use it for something else, we lose the ability to deficit spend in future years going forward. So once it's appropriated, you can never go under that amount. However, you can use your deficit in very much the same way. If we don't spend all of the $450,000 that we have planned for, we can appropriate that at town meeting in the fall. So it's just flexibility.
Any other questions? Thank you. Look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 31D, to approve incurring expenses in excess of the available appropriation for snow and ice removal for fiscal year 2016.
Second.
Moving to second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Finally, the fuel facility card system, highway procurement. I know this has been a long, arduous process for you guys because folks just weren't showing up and didn't want to do the project. So go ahead, Jim, any comments, or Bonnie?
This is just basically to allow us to purchase up the state contract for the Rex fuel card system at the state's fuel prices for the period of time that the fuel facility is down.
I got you.
When it's decommissioned, the town vehicles can shoot, light and water, highway, police, need someplace to fuel up. So this will guarantee that we get the state pricing at any facility that they use. The cards can only be used for fuel fill-up, and they are tied to vehicle and to driver. And have several audit reports that can be run, and if there's a variation in a 5-gallon difference, then it's going to get picked up in the audit report. So it's a pretty slick system.
Same system the state police use.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. Questions? Look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to authorize execution of a contract purchase of fuel cards and fuel management services off of the VEH84 state contract with WEX Bank, which currently expires on April 30th, 2016, and may be extended to September 30th, 2016.
Second.
Moving second. All those in favor? So, and the next one is next agenda item, household hazardous waste is a Devon's Regional Facility intermunicipal agreement. Add the town of Stowe to it? Stowe is coming to it. I gotta tell you, I've had more people come and talk to me to say, finally, we have something to, it used to be done by the Light and Water maybe every 3 years. So now it's really, I don't know what we're doing over there as far as volume. Do you get any of those numbers? But folks are glad we're doing this.
Yeah, it's starting to, as people realize it's there, it's getting busier and busier. If I can read this correctly. There's a certain page that I have. In FY15, we had 45 participants, and in FY16, we had 99 from Littleton. ago, so it was like a 50% increase just in Littleton. So it's been growing even with all the other towns as well. The more they run it, we have one woman that runs it for the collaborative, and she learns economies to how to package the materials so we save money, and the companies are giving us a better price, so it's run more efficiently each year. And the last meeting we had, which was just last week, Clinton is also looking at it. There's another couple towns, so they're trying to decide how big can it get before it kind of overwhelms the site and the hours that we have. So that's something that's coming.
Glad we got in when we did.
Yeah, and they still make, like Stowe has to pay the entrance fee that we paid, so they don't get off scot-free from the construction costs that we had. That goes into a fund to help
Maintain it.
future maintenance or construction that we might need to do.
Nice. So this is just really the extension of the existing contract?
Well, it's to add Stowe.
Oh, Stowe, to the
I didn't realize,
consortium.
when I talked to Keith last week, I didn't realize that you had to vote it. I thought it was just a simple signature, but it's an intermunicipal.
And you'd voted recently to add the town of Ashby, and every time a town gets added, it does take a vote of each of the member communities, but frankly, we haven't reached the tipping point where we wouldn't want to have more towns be involved, because it helps to make sure that we can continue to offer the service if we have a lot of participation.
Question, board members? I would look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 4A, to authorize execution of the Second Amendment to intermunicipal agreement by and among communities in the Devens region participating in the Devens Regional Hazardous Products Collective Facility Program to admit the town of Stowe into the collaborative.
Second.
Moving and seconding, all those in favor? Aye. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Bonnie. All right, so we have public hearings at 8 o'clock. Can we start the number 8A, the town operating?
Yep.
Town operating budget, Bonnie?
As you might remember, the next joint budget meeting with Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and School Committee is going to be scheduled for Monday, March 7th at 7 o'clock. So in preparation, the Selectmen may want to review the staffing priorities that were requested in the solution budgets in the November process. And in particular, at the conversation that I had with the chair, wanted to provide some details on the highway engineering request and the information services or IT support requests. So I did, in the memo, provided you with a list of all of the staffing increases that were requested, just so that you can kind of look through the list itself. But for tonight's discussion, we'll just focus on highway engineering and the IT. I'll start with highway engineering. There was a request for an engineering technician position for a town engineer with an estimated cost of approximately $70,000 plus fringe that we could consider in the 2017 operating budget by doing a transfer from the roadway budget in engineering and moving it up into the highway wages. So it could be budget neutral in that aspect. And we're already spending funding annually on engineering, on outside engineering. This wouldn't replace that expense, but it could mitigate it. Right now, all of the engineering covers construction oversight, on-site engineering expenses, plus design services. The design services in likelihood are always going to be needed, but some of the construction oversight could be done in-house with this type of service. In addition, the town's seen an increase in demand for engineering services by way of this new stormwater permit issue that's coming up for next fiscal year, as well as just regular engineering support through the PMVC projects that they're dealing with and technical specifications. There's just a tremendous demand for these types of services. We used to have a town engineer by way of Eric Derling up until 2008. I think he went part-time in 2003 and retired to about 15 hours a week and then finally finished in 2008. At that time in 2008, we were under a pretty poor fiscal outlook and did not fill the position at that point. It wasn't even brought to the board for consideration because of the staffing vacancy process that we have in place. So that is probably one of the main priorities to bring forward.
Just one question on that. I know you, when we had talked, there was a
Yep.
retirement
We
pending?
did, management staff met last week to review the existing department structure. We do have a notice that the general foreman, that Dan, is going to be retiring probably sometime in April at the end of the season. So we looked at all of the staffing to see if, you know, that could be, if this position could be absorbed without an FTE increase, and by way of maybe eliminating another position and replacing it with the engineer. Because the department's already down a parks working foreman, to remove another foreman is going to handicap just the services that they currently deliver. So this, we did look at it, we can't do it without an FTE increase.
So you're down a parks foreman, is that a current vacancy that has?
It's actually a highway working foreman.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we had lost a staff member and it just didn't make sense to replace a working foreman, we didn't have enough staff to basically field another crew.
Too many
so
chiefs.
we've been running. Yeah, we were kind of running short, because when you put people out on the road, you know, there's a guy in a sweeper, you can't field the crew. So we just didn't feel prudent to fill the working foreman
Right.
at that point.
That was done in 2008 too, because that was when the position, they had two vacancies. They had the engineer that retired, and then another position became vacant and was not filled. So they were really down to two positions.
Okay.
And so having the working foreman filled in didn't make sense with them being down so many bodies at that point.
All right. So I guess for me, you know, I'll let the board members jump in. I'd like to see a revised whole budget for them, type of staffing budget, you know,
With just this position and with,
with it and without. So I guess, you know, we have been a level staffing type position, so I guess adding another FTE is new to me. You know, just more discussion, I think.
no, I can prepare that.
Yeah. Questions?
I think this is something that has come up. We tabled it at one point. In May, maybe? All right? May or June?
Started last year.
Yeah, we had a discussion last summer sometime. Might have been the first time.
Yeah. So I know that we kind of put it aside at that point in time. But I do see, you use the word mitigate. I think it will mitigate a lot of the services that we currently pay for in professional services on a fee for use are going to be higher than I think the return that we'll get on an FTE, even including fringe. I think it's the potential to be budget neutral or even budget positive is.
I can budget it as budget neutral, and then we can see, you know, the engineering services budget was done.
Yeah. I think
Options, that's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, I think it's important to look
Options.
at it, just like PJ was
Yeah.
looking for the sheet from the Cooper property. I think if we look at it on a sheet of paper and we can kind of look at the options, it definitely makes it, for my little brain, it makes it easier for me to,
I'll second
if
that.
you could use crayon, that'd be great.
Segueing on Chuck's comments there, when this was first presented to us, at least during my time on the board here, was an engineering technician. And I actually advocated for an engineer. If we were going to go the technician route, let's go the engineer. Better bang for the buck there. That said, with Green providing a lot of our out-of-house engineering services, I got to be honest with folks, I kind of expected that there would have been a comparison. And I understand we can't go point to point to point every single time. But we've got an idea of the sorts of year in and year out activities that require Green or any other engineering house to provide some services to us. What might this person be able to provide to us that no longer requires that out-of-house engineering firm? And then we could have done a much better, I think, dollar comparison. And I'd ask if we have that, please, which I think is Jim was sitting on, so that'd be most useful.
And maybe a job description?
Yep, I think that's
Is that-
in here, yes,
Is
it
it?
is. And we did look at the change in the job description from the engineering technician to a town engineer. It happens to be on the same grade. The engineering technician came in at a low 11, and this came in at like a high 11. So
I'm going to be candid, getting a reasonably good engineer at $70K a year, that's good luck.
Stroke of luck.
So we may not do well there, but that's another subject later on. At least this gives us a point of departure.
No, we can drop that. Okay, so the next one is under information.
Well, hold on, Selectman Hughes has an opportunity to talk here.
Thank you, Chairman.
So let's open up the, let's put this on hold, and let's jump to our 8 o'clock hearing, public hearing for Gallery Cafe at 529 King Street. Virginia Wood, manager. Come on up, Virginia.
Want to read this?
Yes, please.
Board of Selectmen public hearing, all alcoholic beverages license application, Virginia Wood manager, doing business as the Gallery Cafe at 529 King Street, Littleton, Mass. Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, February 22nd, 2016 at 8 p.m. in Littleton Town Offices, room 103, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Massachusetts. To act on an all-alcoholic restaurant license application under Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 12, submitted by Virginia Wood, manager of the Gallery Cafe, located at 529 King Street, Littleton, Massachusetts, assessed as map U07, parcel 7-0. The applicant is seeking approval for the sale of all alcoholic beverages Monday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. on the premises, described as a two-story frame building with one entrance and 6 exits. First floor consists of 7 rooms, 3 bathrooms, kitchen, and 2 outdoor patios totaling 4,100 square feet. The outdoor fenced-in area adds an additional 700 square feet. Comments therein may be submitted in writing to the Selectman Town Administrator's Office, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Massachusetts, by noon on Friday, February 19, 2016, or in person at the hearing. Littleton Board of Selectmen, James Carr, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ovella. Any comments over there, or any comments Mr. Bergman received?
The only issue that we had was from the planning board on whether the previously approved 60-seat maximum approved by the planning board would require further review by that board.
Have we been before the planning board yet?
March 3rd.
Okay. So why don't you give us an update as to what you're planning for the site?
It's, I'm Virginia Wood. I've owned the property at 529 King Street for 21 years or so. And about a year and a half ago, I want to say 2 years ago, when we came before you, it was as the Gallery 529 and also Act 3. And unfortunately, Act 3 decided not to continue in business any longer. So with the able help of my partner, Elizabeth Greenslade, we are taking over the restaurant end of it, and we will still have Gallery 529. But we plan to open a new cafe, of which Liz is going to be primarily in charge, and I'll continue with the gallery. And so I guess I'd let Liz talk a little bit about the restaurant if you want.
Yeah. So instead of the music that the Jazz Cafe was focusing on, we're really bringing the art into the restaurant and carrying that theme. All of the food on the menu we're going to be using as much as we can, the local farm, Springdale and Gary's Farm Stand, and any others that we can create relationships with. Lunchtime, we plan on a smaller menu, trying to cater to IBM and all the businesses around here. Dinner will be a little bit more of an experience, but, more entrees, but nothing crazy. We are hoping to make ourselves funky enough and cool enough to take the overflow from all those restaurants going in the Point on the weekends and have people find a quick place on their phone to go to when there's a 2-hour wait at a chain restaurant, and find this local business with really great food. Prepared by a really great chef that we have lined up, and I think that's it.
And so the total seats that we're asking is just 14 seats more than what Act 3 had.
Okay, so I've asked the 2 chiefs for comments, both fire and police.
No issues with the police. It was basically the same setup that was there before, other than she's just taking ownership of the liquor license, so
Okay.
we're okay with it, and she's lived in the business long enough, so we're set.
Chief Buzinski.
What will the total number of seats be now?
74?
74. Okay, I'm not sure. I think you're limited at 60.
by the site plan.
So I would make
But
it
the occupancy
contingent-
is still 98.
contingent upon approvals.
Right, and there's not going to be any entertainment, correct?
Correct. Except for Liz and me. And we're plenty
And the only other thing would be as long as the restaurant is open for the entire time that you're serving alcohol.
Oh, yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, and in fact, Liz has a family, a young family, and I'm old. So, and the streets of Littleton really.
As Chief alluded to, that was real nice.
Historically roll up at like 8 o'clock, 8:30, so our intent is not to stay open late.
Right. We'll be on the earlier side, definitely. Not open till 12, 1 o'clock, anything like that.
Yeah, it's just not within our ability, it's not mine.
Last call will be at the point.
Head on over.
Very good. Board members, Selectman Hebert, any questions?
No questions. Glad to hear about the local resources and always supportive of your business. So.
Yes, thank you.
Selectman Avella.
Yes, thank you. First, I really wish the both of you good luck on this. Yes, you know well, it's your fourth endeavor here in the last 12 years. And as the most recent one that we went through, we've been through sprinkling issues. We know what that is now. That's settled. We know what occupancy is based on total occupancy available. We know that that's settled now. So I certainly wish you good luck with the board, planning board, when you go and ask for 74 seats. And we certainly look to get a speedy approval on this one, given everything that's presented at this point and the inputs from the various chiefs and other departments received up to this point. You're well within the limits, so thank you.
Thank you.
The only question I have is relative to the patio area. I know that when Act 3 was in there, they had asked us for approval to serve alcohol in the patio area. Same?
Yep, yep.
And
The map should show a circle around the outside patio. So you've still got the little area off the bar so that if you need to make a phone call, you can take your drink with you to make the phone call. And then there'll be seating out where there's always been seating for the last 20 years.
And that'll remain, I know when they had it, it was
Yep, it's
enclosed. And
Yeah.
Chief, you good with that? I'm good.
All right, so the only question I have is in regards to the planning board, you're going before them March 3rd?
Yes.
And that's just to increase the number of seats from 60 to 74.
Which increases the parking requirement by, it's one seat for, one parking space for every 4 seats.
Okay.
So,
So that doesn't have any impact on this licensing, so I don't see any
No,
issue.
you could condition it on, you could vote tonight to go forward and condition it on your approval on the receipt of the other approval from the planning board.
Okay, why don't we do that? Yeah, I'll take a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moving seconded? Thank you. Look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the applications of the Gallery Cafe at 529 King Street, Virginia Wood, doing business manager, doing business as the Gallery Cafe, 529 King Street, 1, for an all-alcoholic restaurant license under MGL Chapter 138, subsection 12, for the sale of all alcoholic beverages Monday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. at the premises described as a 2-story wood frame building with 1 entrance and 6 exits. First floor consists of 7 rooms, 3 bathrooms, kitchen, and 2 outdoor patios totaling 4,100 square feet. Outdoor fenced-in area comprises an additional 700 square feet with an issuance of said license to be subject to ABCC approval and passing all local inspections. And 2, for a common particular under Mass General Law, Chapter 140, subsection 6, license for the same premises contingent upon approvals from the planning board.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck on the 3rd.
thank you so
One-stop
much.
shopping.
Thank you.
Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, Liz.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Good. Nice to see you again. Thank you.
All right, so let's get back into Bonnie and two-way, 15-hour per week assistant information systems manager, Selectman Hebert. At our last meeting, we have another public hearing at 8:15, so we have 5 minutes to chit-chat here. At our last selectmen's meeting, I brought up your concern of IT and the lack of support that our IT coordinator has. So Bonnie has presented to us some different options that we may be able to help out the IT, Nancy.
Thank you for that. Yes, actually, there's a slight change because Nancy was able to negotiate with the vendor, and in the two options that I'm going to discuss tonight, 2B on your agenda item was listed at $40,653. That should be revised to $35,136. As a result of the work she did this weekend. But basically, the information services level staffing budget is going to have a significant increase this year just because of some changes that were done over at Light and Water with their information services support. Light and Water has made the decision, because of their operational needs, to outsource much of their IT support. Unfortunately, some of their IT support supported the town and our needs too, and that includes the antivirus software management, firewall management, and a lot of other components with the email exchange server and everything. So as a result of those services being outsourced, the town has to pay for our portion of those costs because Nancy couldn't absorb those tasks into her normal daily routine. She can really keep up with what she's got going on right now. So that just, in that level staffing budget, is an increase of $54,164 for a level service. So this doesn't enhance any services, it just basically keeps us afloat where we are right now.
Does that include all public safety too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Nancy's also experiencing a need for support, just in general, to help her with some of the tasks. You might remember from the budget presentation hearing that, you know, the org chart for IT in many other communities involves several different people. And here it involves Nancy, and Nancy's it.
Several different hats.
I saw that org chart, if we could have all our employees wearing 8 hats, really cut costs.
Very productive.
Chief, you should smile, that was a joke.
So, and that involves things like when the library PCs, the public PCs go down, she's got to run and deal with that, fax machines, telephone systems, and the high-level stuff like, you know, document management systems that we're looking at, and the website updates. So she's got a lot on her plate. So in looking through the budget process, she had originally requested a part-time 15-hour-a-week assistant for the department with a salary estimated at $18,190. It's a non-benefit eligible position, but there are some fringe costs still involved, which would total $6,548.
What would the fringe be, just for curiosity?
We have to pay certain
Certifications.
and you know, all of the other, like the Medicare costs.
Okay.
So there's contributions that we do make for those types of things.
All right.
But no retirement, no health insurance,
No.
or anything like that. So we also asked her to look at outsourcing that, you know, what would the cost be for something like that? So she did contact the same vendor that Light and Water is using, and to do the services that she had identified as being a high priority would cost $35,136 for outside vendor services. That wouldn't involve any fringe. It would also provide 24/7 coverage, where the initial one is 15 hours a week. So it's 24/7 remote. There's no on-site component to this, but it's, you know, if somebody has a problem with their phone or their fax machine, they can, not their phone, but they'd have to pick another phone. They could call in to the support desk and deal with it. So that will provide a lot of relief for her. But in either case, she's perfectly happy with either one.
So with the 24-hour, 24-hour coverage, does that take all, like, again, I'm going to go to public safety, they're 24/7.
Correct.
So all their dispatch, all their computers or whatever, that's not covered under their radio contract.
If there were a problem with any of the technology equipment down there that would require Nancy to come down, they could call the help desk and they would manage it that way.
Okay, so what is, hopefully these guys were involved in the services, because I want, you know, the chiefs have to be comfortable with, when they make that phone call, someone better show up. So,
I guess I would say to you, you know, right now Nancy is great at showing up. I just feel bad for her because, you know, a one person, again, having to show up on a 24/7 basis. I guess if I was to recommend something, I like the 24/7 help desk personally, because it does give you that round-the-clock coverage. We do run a 24-hour services, and we all know we're so reliant now on, you know, the computer systems to keep us up and running, that, you know, it's very difficult when we go down, and, you know, but poor Nancy I mean, it's just not fair to her either, you know, being 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so.
Okay.
I'm very comfortable with it, you know, everything we have is connected to the fire department, the same thing, so I think that 24/7 help desk would be, you know.
And Light and Water was kind enough to involve Nancy in the process because they knew that, you know, this was going to impact the town. So she got to
From the kickoff?
Right.
Perfect.
Right.
That's
So-
good news.
To be clear, though, help desk does not mean someone's going to show up.
No.
No, it's remote,
Right,
it's
remote.
off-site.
Now, that said, we're going to allow remote access to the
I'm gonna
computers.
call a timeout here, we got 8:15, so we'll get back in. Hold your thought, though.
I'll try.
Jot it down.
If you can,
Pretty porous up here.
our next public hearing is for Assurance Gold LLC, valuable secondhand items dealer's license.
This one's shorter. Board of Selectmen public hearing, valuable secondhand items license, Keith Shaughnessy, manager. Assurance Gold, doing business as Countryside Trading at 555 Newtown Road and 287 Great Road, Littleton, Massachusetts. The Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, February 22nd, 2016, at 8:15 p.m. in Meeting Room 103, Town Offices, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Massachusetts, on the request of Keith Shaughnessy, manager of Assurance Gold, doing business as Countryside Trading, located at 550 Newtown Road and 287 Great Road, Littleton, Massachusetts, for valuable second-hand items dealer's license pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 54, and Chapter 163 of the Littleton Town Code. Comments therein may be submitted in writing to the Selectman Town Administrator's Office, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Massachusetts, by noon on Friday, February 19, 2016, or in person at the hearing. All interested parties are invited to attend. James Carr, Board of Selectmen.
Thank you, Mr. Vella. Mr. Bergman, any correspondence received?
None.
Thank you. Gentlemen, introduce yourself, tell us what you've been doing.
My name is Keith Shaughnessy, I'm the manager and member of Assurance Gold LLC. We do business as Countryside Trading, that's what our sign says, it's how the public knows us. We do business above our storage facility, which is the Safe Space Storage Building on Newtown Road, up above there, and we do business, we've had a retail location, we're going on our third year, next to the Yankee Barber Shop and the Subway. We're applying for a secondhand reseller's license. We submitted an application. This process began in 2012. There were certain delays, there were a couple of things that were shelved, and now we're coming to fruition when we're applying for the license. Don't really know, I've applied for a liquor license before this body before for Fallon's, and appeared before all the bodies for the storage facility, but this is my first time applying for a reseller's license. I've been in the business for 9 years, but the reseller's license is a relatively new requirement, and that's why we're here today.
Okay. Members, questions?
I'd say,
Selectman Hebert.
just off the top of my head, I mean, you've been here for 9 years, it's a new requirement, we don't have any concerns noted, right?
Okay.
I have one concern.
Sure.
Bringing up, this is the secondhand license as it appears in the town bylaw. There's one clause where I'm in immediate violation the second I have the license. I'll just read out loud. It's regards to the record I have to keep. Such record shall be maintained on a form approved by the chief of police, which we've done, and shall have the ability to be reproduced. Said record of purchase shall be delivered to the Criminal Investigation Division at the Littleton Police Department, or through an agreed-upon electric means on a weekly schedule to be determined by the CID. After transfer that is acknowledged by the Littleton Police Department, the owner or dealer shall destroy said records, period. Said record shall be kept in a suitable place by owner or dealer on the premises of a licensed business and shall be available for inspection by any person of authorization by the chief of police. So that, the gist of that immediately, it's an oxymoronic paragraph. I both have to destroy immediately and then keep said record ad infinitum. So I'll be in violation the second I turn on my first weekly. If I don't destroy it, I'll be in violation if I do destroy it. So we need to repair that. And there's one other place where, and this is where I was remiss when the Attorney General reviewed the bylaw and sent back recommendations. I didn't keep an eye on it, and maybe I missed it, but Section 163.4 there's a bypass whereby I can contact Chief King or his designee and say it's a repeat customer or an estate, or I'm working with an attorney, and they can by email give me permission to bypass the holding period. I'm just pointing that out and wondering if this body wants me to have a document for that, or just to keep the emails as the document. So when I email Chief King or his designee and they say, okay, in this circumstance, the giant stamp collection, you don't have to take a picture of everything, for any redress to the bylaw, because I'm granted permission to have not to take a picture of every stamp. I'll keep a copy of the email if this body is okay with that. And the last area that I'm a little nervous about, and maybe it's just the broad language, but if I may, the chief, regarding the examination inspection of records and articles, the chief of police or his designees or any authorized representative of the Littleton Board of Selectmen or its designees shall at all times have the authority to inspect or examine all books kept by the keeper or dealer of a shop, as well as to inspect and examine all articles and merchandise therein. Articles and merchandise therein I never got to. I was caught at immediately at any and all documents. We get wills, we get schedules of beneficiaries, we do business with bullion by bank wire. We have consumer information that we would immediately be in violation of the state's privacy laws, as well as several other broad laws. The language of this right to inspect is beyond any federal authority. The IRS doesn't have these broad measures to come and examine any and all filed reports the way it reads. Just like to tighten that language up a little bit if we could.
Okay, all right.
If that's not...
So I think what, like, I'm Joseph Presti, I'm Keith's attorney. I think what he's inarticulately trying to say is that the law has to be tightened, the language of some of these clauses has to be tightened up to be applied equitably. And if possible, we would like to work with Mr. Bergman and Chief King to work on some of these clauses, and maybe, not at your next meeting or maybe the meeting after, try to have a workable copy that's reasonable.
So that we're not immediately in violation.
So there's no questions at any point in the future. Should Chief King leave, or should one of the selectmen decide to walk in under this clause and say, show me all your books now? Sorry, these are private records, so to a degree, we have no problem showing the police or their designee, but there's a lot of things in here that people shouldn't have access to. Anything that pertains to a purchase, which the whole scope of this law originally was to recover stolen merchandise. That's the only scope of this law. So my immediate question to Keith was, why should they have access to every record in your business? Why not just have records to your purchases, period?
Specifically excluded in the law is estate purchases, dealer-to-dealer transactions. So specifically excluded to the body of this bylaw is bypassed by that clause. All of my dealers, and any paperwork with me would be open. Some of my dealers are sole proprietors, and their social security numbers in there, and what they receive from me is open. I am periodically audited by Homeland Security for anyone that sells any of one type of bullion. That Homeland Security audit is by no means the right of anybody other than the Homeland Security to review. It's never been a problem. It's every bullion dealer has to have a Homeland Security audit periodically. But under this agreement, all of those documents would be open.
Two suggestions. First, that there are no doubt inartful passages in the bylaw as it's been adopted by town meeting. Town meeting approved the document that we brought them, and the Attorney General approved that document, and it would take the same two-step process, town meeting approval, Attorney General approval, in order for the bylaw itself to change. Notwithstanding that, if what we really need is sort of to have an operating protocol of weighing not only, weighing not only what this bylaw says, but also what that you're saying competing statutes might say, that it doesn't seem to me to be unreasonable to come to some kind of a written understanding of how we balance all of those, so that you're not inadvertently doing something to comply with this bylaw which violates some other law, that it's not our intent to
Yeah,
do
no,
that.
that's all we're asking for, is just.
And you're our first license under this
Yeah,
bylaw.
we would love nothing better than to walk out with the license tonight, but to be fair to everybody who
Because
comes after
sound like you were talking us out of it.
No,
please.
You know,
Yeah, I'm inarticulate.
I'm on
Joe
a,
did quite articulate the job.
I'm on a committee up in New Hampshire, I was appointed by the governor to deal with the statewide secondhand dealer law. So I've been in the business since 1980, so it's longer than I can do the math. But I have a lot of experience in this type of business. And it's inevitable. Almost every town in the Commonwealth and across the country are adopting laws like this. The problem is, someone wrote one of these laws in Wyoming 10 years ago, and most towns are just copying and pasting without giving it a lot of thought. So that's what has to be done, is we have to give it some thought as to how it could apply and some of the ramifications. So I think Mr. Bergman has an excellent point. I think maybe if you can give us till, again, like I said, not next meeting, maybe the meeting after, whenever that falls, to work with Mr. Bergman and Chief King to iron out some of the inconsistencies in language, get a good working copy, and then if you feel that's suitable to be amended, you can take that to the town meeting at some future.
Sure. Chief, go ahead.
First of all, I have no problem, working through the issues. Or I would again say that the Attorney General looked at this, approved it, looked at the Attorney General, when they do their approval, looks at competing laws, looks at competing federal statutes, otherwise they wouldn't approve the bylaw if it was going against state law or federal law. With that being said, there's certainly some inarticulate sentences in there. How I read the fact is, once that Mr. Shaughnessy transmits his documents to us, he has, at that point there, he can destroy them because the documents are now in my hands, or the department's hands, not my hands. But certainly we can work through some of these issues, I don't know who he's doing, nor I want to know who he's doing, bullion exchanges with, or paper exchanges, things like that. That's not what this is. It's like Mr. Presti says. This is really there to look at, to make sure there's a hold on items when they come in, that we take a look at them. If we know that Matt King is a local B&E guy who now is, come in and showing Mr. Shaughnessy his license and brought all these coins in, and, we know that there was 2 house breaks over in Acton, because, again, we all communicate, and there's certain, coinage or things were stolen, we can go in through Mr. Shaughnessy and identify these things. This is the knowing, no way meant to, hurt Mr. Shaughnessy's business or penalize Mr. Shaughnessy, or any business, and he's not saying that. He sat down with me over the weekend, we looked at the first initial form. I guess I would ask the board, I would think it would be appropriate for the board to approve this license tonight, and then we can, probably Mr. Bergman, myself, or can work through and get the proper, forms put together and bring them back to the board just to show you what we've done. That would just be my opinion. It's something we can work forward to. If there's some changes needed to the bylaw, I don't know if it's in time to make it to this spring's town meeting or not, or if we'll have to wait until the fall. I know it's a pretty tight, tight package. It's May 7th.
We'd have to have everything wrapped up 2 weeks from tonight in order to get it on the warrant for May 10th.
If I may, there was, in the letter from the Attorney General's office, there were recommendations made. When we first began the process of meeting with the town, and at the town meeting when it was brought up, and Chief Kelly, we had worked pretty closely together. I think that Joe and I drafted 2 paragraphs of the bylaw. But there was specific caution against, from the Attorney General regarding this bylaw, against conflict with state law, in particular the privacy law of 1997. If we could just put 2 sentences in this, does that have to go before town council?
Everything is, yes.
All right, so I'm going to ask.
No changes can be made to that bylaw except by town meeting and the Attorney General.
Could we,
So what I'm hearing is, let's we need some type of memorandum of understanding or a standard operating procedure for this bylaw that incorporates your concerns. The chief of police and town administrator will have town council and the town side.
If I could, I'll take the initiative. I will email Mr. Bergman and Chief King what my concerns are, what some of the corrections or changes in language that we would like to see and why. Suggestions.
Sure.
And why. And then we can create a dialogue and go from there.
Yeah.
And we honestly don't want to be licensed for a law we can't comply with.
Sure. I feel a lot more comfortable with the email going back and forth when I'm shredding documents.
Yeah.
Than not having that email go back and forth and having me shredding documents.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
So if it's an email coming to us, we have to keep it.
That's fine.
Unless it says to destroy it after you turn it over.
It's not what the new public records
So-
law says.
So what,
And I'll work as quickly as I can.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
So
paying the bills.
what we can do is,
Paying you in bullion?
as Chief suggested, I don't hear any opposition, I'll turn it over to the board as far as any questions, concerns about this.
The only question I have is, there's no change to what's happening right now. It's going to be business as usual, it's just a matter of
Yeah,
compliance.
he's been operating in the same location for 3 years
Yeah.
without even realizing that this was in effect. And it's been never an issue. You know, so we just want a little bit of a
Clean it up.
dialogue to go back and forth to understand.
Just one last, I just spoke with Chief King. Could we date the license, if it is approved, I know it would be presumptuous, could we date the license for 4 weeks from tonight so we can have the time to tighten up the language and have the emails?
We can make a contingency on the motion to take care of your concerns. Mr. Ravello?
Now, given the situation, this is the best approach.
Okay. Selectman Hebert, any concerns? So I'd look for the motion to be contingent upon a negotiated standard operating procedure with the chief of police and town administrator to enhance the existing bylaw.
No, I'm going to ask,
So good.
because it is a bylaw, that it's contingent upon our approval of that agreement, the Board of Selectmen's approval, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, we could say
Work it all like everything you said.
with issuance of the license
Wrap
to
it up
be
with
subject to
It's contingent, subject to us approving
the
that.
board's
Standard
further
operating
approval of a protocol between the licensee and the town.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll attend to explain.
Selectman Hebert's got it written down, so.
Hopefully he gets it. He's going to.
So, all right, I think that it's doable, we'll work with you. We'll get a motion. I think that the town side, once we have this procedure in place, maybe we take a look at the bylaw and if it has to be enhanced, has to be changed, sentences have to be changed, we take a look at that for our fall town meeting. Look for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Moving to second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Look for a motion for the valuable secondhand items dealer's license for Assurance Gold LLC.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the application of Keith Shaughnessy, manager of Assurance Gold LLC, doing business as Countryside Trading, located at 550 Newtown Road and 287 Great Road, Littleton, Mass. For our valuable secondhand items dealer's license pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 140, subsection 54, and Littleton Town Code, Chapter 163, contingent upon a negotiated standard operating procedure with the Chief of Police and Town Administrator to enhance the existing bylaw, which will be subject to Board of Selectmen approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
You have no more
Good to
set up
good to
for
see you,
us.
Jim. Okay.
Good to see you.
All right, all right, Joe.
Lucky.
You're back on, Paul.
All right. The thought was, when we're looking at the help desk,
Yes.
and we all understand it's not people actually showing up, it's going to be calling somebody and getting professional help that way. Are we going to allow remote access to this help desk, to our computers?
We currently actually do allow, there is a remote access for many of the systems we currently use. IMC, which is our in-house, has remote access, so there is, remote access. And I believe the current vendor has remote access through the light department, which is the mainframe system, so they already have remote access.
Okay, so the server that you use at Light and Water, they already have access to?
Correct, and our in-house service.
And my concern is any
Security.
possible breach of, police records, very important. So, okay, thank you.
They were all vetted, under the criminal justice information system, and we've done all our protocols to make sure that we stay in compliance with the FBI and everybody else. There's certain steps we have to take with any vendor that we're dealing with.
The second question I have to that, when Light and Water decided to go contract with this, because presumably the burden was too much to the staff,
I'm not entirely sure. I know that, I think the service level was needed 24/7. And in order to provide that, they felt that this was the best model to use.
I'm not disputing whether it's the best model or not, it's just I'm looking at FT equivalents, because it caused an increase for us, as to at least cost in this case. So, and I know how Light and Water can help with that when they do rates. I guess I'm almost in a circular argument with myself, and I apologize. But I guess what I'm looking for is if you know, when Light and Water went through this, does it net them actually, not that it gets another person, but in essence frees up a body who was doing this sort of service, now can do something else?
They actually did some staffing reductions.
Okay, thank you.
And if it's helpful, I can read a list of the services that.
Not for me personally.
You good?
Yes, thank you.
Selectman Hebert?
That's a great question. No, I'm good. I mean, I think, so our options are 2A and 2B, 2A or 2B, or not 2B. And I know when we...
Sounds like a talk of the town.
Yeah, right. I know when we went and we had the budget discussions initially, the new vendor was kind of the wild card. We didn't know much about how that would change things. I like so it wasn't kind of an idea, how can we leverage them to solve the Nancy problem? So I like the creative problem solving of leveraging them for that. I don't know, I think I'd be supportive of that one. So no questions, I guess I'm just thinking.
Okay. So, in regards to the town engineer, I think we, let's put that in the holding pattern and come back. For me, I think that, it's a net almost $80,000 increase for IT work in the town of Littleton town side. We were very beneficial of the staff that were downsized from Littleton Electric, Light and Water. So, I mean, essentially, it's another FTE when you talk IT money, just through a contract. We save the fringe benefits. That's a lot of money, but you know what? The way the world is, we have awards for our website. That's for one reason we have those awards, because of Nancy and her work that she does. Obviously, public safety is a priority, and we need to make sure that both fire and police are satisfied in their operations, so I'd go with 2B.
So, with the town engineer, we're tabling that again?
Yes.
All right, this is the second time we're tabling it. And
Sure.
It's obviously come before us because a need's been identified, the numbers have already been done for us, it's been presented to us. So why aren't we just having a conversation and making a decision instead of tabling it again?
I would offer it's not the second time, Chuck, it's the first time a town engineer has come before us. It was a technician previously. I even recommended that they look at an engineer. But right now, there's insufficient information because it was viewed from me as a trade-off. So not necessarily budget neutral, but darn near it. And that analysis is not present to make that decision. So rather than saying, we're going to continue spending everything we have been on outside engineering support and add another $70,000 plus the 24, so another $94,000 on top of that, I disagree with. That we look at, there's some cut in there, and we look at the services that are required for the town, there should be an offset of some sort from outside house engineering services that this will cover. Not necessarily one for one, but there should be some offset that can be demonstrated.
So, I think that's going to be tough to do it. We're trying to nail Jello to a wall. How are we going to identify that? Because we don't know what the skills that we can identify a job description of that individual, so that we can try to dictate which services we can eliminate from green, for instance, you mentioned, or any other professional service. But we're definitely going to benefit in some way, shape, or form. We're going to eliminate some of the professional services that we're going to pay for based on the individual that we hire.
I think what Paul and I were saying is we just don't have that information at that time. What are we gonna eliminate? What is the actual budget impact gonna be? And I'd like to see the job description myself, based on the personnel board grading it out. I mean, has that been vetted? It is.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. I don't know why I didn't see it.
It's right before the picture of Nancy. It's right
I guess that's where I'm,
in the middle of the packet.
and we trust our department heads to bring
I
us,
still don't see
the numbers, and I don't think Jim's been frivolous with saying, I need this, I need that, I need the other. I would be of the opinion to vote to approve.
My initial
Number
support
one.
going from a technician to an engineer was based on some sort of offset from outside services.
And there will be one.
I don't know what it is. Is it $1? Is it $10? Is it
And I
$1,000?
trust
$70,000.
Jim.
$70,000 reduction in roadway.
No, that's a transfer of money inside of town, and that means we don't do something else in
I'm
town.
saying, what are we gonna save from the outside engineer?
Yeah.
So what are we not gonna pay Green or another professional service
Yeah.
if we
So-
hire Joe
So-
the engineer?
$7,000.
Is,
You'd like it to be that. I would too. Actually, I'd like to be 94,000.
I think it would be greater than
that
that,
makes even better.
frankly. I think it'd be
could
greater than
I
that.
mean, but I've
Because
had the-
professional services are
I've
more
had-
expensive.
And the ability of having an in-house PE to negotiate with the, and to react to the, the documents we get from the contracted engineer, the consulting engineer, would at least give us the ability to save that money now that we really don't
Right.
have with our own in-house skill sets.
I was an initial advocate of this, so I still support it. I just want to see an analysis of what it's going to cost us, rather than just voting an increase of $94,000 to the town budget with not knowing the offset. I don't think we should do that.
All right, so I think that a lot of that information has been given to us. It came to us in November at the summit, and we've been given a packet with a lot of that information.
I'd be willing to see the numbers right now. then.
And maybe
What
to clarify, the proposal is not to increase the budget by the 94,000, it's to reduce the roadway budget and transfer that up into.
But that's stuff in roadway we're not doing.
That's my
That's
point.
that's my point on this. I don't see that as a good trade for the town. Let's just take it from the police department then, the school department, the fire department. Did I miss anybody? Just don't see that as a fair trade to our people in town.
Do the analysis.
May I ask
think
a
we can come
question?
back.
Jim, where are you at staff-wise? If we're looking at level budgets, and that's what we're talking about here, this is an add of 70,000 or
What are
94,000.
you saying we're adding? I mean, we lost this person in 2008, and we're
Right.
short another highway guy from 2008. So, I mean, we're down 2 people. I mean, Eric technically left in 2003, and he was working 15 hours a week. So we lost 40 hours of administration in 2003, down to 15. You know, I mean, I spend millions of dollars, and you're putting all that on my shoulders. You know, I mean, I work a ton of hours, and, you know, I'm getting criticized for not doing my job, and yet I'm trying to get a little bit of help. I mean, we use Green for resident engineering, and I'll just pick New State Road, and our contract is $128,000. And that guy's out there every day while they're doing construction. If we hire an engineer, I don't think that's, you know, he's not gonna be able to be out there 5 days a week because he's not gonna be doing the other stuff. But you could reduce the resident engineer down. You know, I mean, there's things that go on. I mean, we get pulled in every different direction from other departments and things like that, and we're just dying a slow death.
And I think that we have made other departments whole. I know that there have been many cuts made in every department, and a lot of them have been made whole, and we recently added a couple of firefighters. We're looking at the potential of adding some patrolmen. And Jim basically hasn't been able to backfill a lot of these positions.
So you agree with that?
He's been a good soldier, and he's been very financially prudent, and I think that this is something that we should continue the discussion on and
I think we
look
all
at
agree in continuing the discussion, precisely.
tonight.
Okay, back to the history. When this came before us, 7, 8, 9 months ago, whatever it was an engineering technician. I personally made the recommendation that we look at an engineer instead of a technician, on the basis that we look at an offset as to what that outside services would cost us. Jim, you just provided an anecdotal evidence, $128,000 for New Estate Road right now by Green International, and this particular engineer, if we brought him on, would be able to do some of those duties, thus reducing that 128 by some factor. Okay, that's the analysis I'm asking for, so that we actually have the numbers. When you put a sales proposal together, we all know this, you've got all the numbers there so that all the decision makers can look at it and do the math and say, yes, this makes sense, rather than just anecdotally. And that's where we're at this evening. And I'm only asking that it be put down on paper so we can answer the folks in town of Littleton as to why we decided to go this way, hire another FTE when we've talked level staff and all this time. And I understand that perturbations over the various years is where we've lost people because various departments have suffered through that throughout the entire town, and we've worked hard to make them whole. I support this. I just want to see the analysis so I can support it with documentation rather than with my heart.
I also think that a lot of the information that we're going to get is going to be anecdotal.
It can be
It's
professional estimate,
Okay.
and I trust Jim very much to be able to do that quite well.
That's why I think we should move forward, because I trust Jim very much.
All set?
Yes, sir.
I mean, again, I would like to see the analysis myself, so.
So
It's not that we're saying- we're not saying no.
Okay, but given the analysis, so I can get a commitment tonight that if the analysis proves out that we are going to save what amount? Is it the full amount? Is it a percentage of it?
That's the decision we're gonna make when we see what we actually, what the numbers look like. I mean, if it comes back where, we're not gonna save anything, then we need to make a decision, you know? We're gonna add the $98,000 to the town's budget.
All right, obviously, I've been on record as saying, I think we have the information we need to be able to move forward tonight.
And if we get those figures, then we can just put it back on the agenda before town meeting.
Absolutely. All right, so, sounds like as far as the IT, everybody on board with the 2B?
Well, so, there was a number of $35,000, Bonnie.
Yes, 35 or 36.
All right, and the number 2B has 40,653.
Right, so that's why I said at the beginning, just cross that off.
I'm sorry,
It's
that's
the
right, you did
fancy
say, yep, I didn't do it right.
136.
So basically, for $10,000 more, we're getting 24/7 dial-up service. not
And an
dial-up, but-
automated ticket system as well. So an automated ticket system so people can log requests for help and they can route it and track it and report on it, which we can't really do today. So that's good. I like that too. But yeah.
Yeah. What's Nancy's opinion here? Did she have one?
She preferred to.
That's good enough for me.
Look for a motion.
And on. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to include in the town's operating budget request for fiscal year 2017 for the following staff increases. 2B, the inclusion of an additional $35,136 in budgeted FY 2017 expenses for outside vendor services to provide support to the IS manager.
Second.
I'm moving second, all those in favor? Aye. So, before we move on to 8B, I know that we were planning on having discussions about contract negotiations for the deputies and Bonnie. Joe Knox had to leave, and I'd like to have a full board here for those discussions. So, we're not going to have those tonight. There's nothing time sensitive at this point. We have until June, I believe it is, to wrap up the deputies and Bonnie. I apologize for that, but Mr. Knox had to leave early, and I'd like to have the full board here to discuss those contracts.
Will we all be here at our next meeting on March 7th?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
HP, the man, is making me travel back to Houston. I will be in Houston the week of the 7th and in California the week of the 21st. I will miss our next 2 meetings. I apologize, but
Can we do the 14th?
Are we considering another meeting based on the load of warrant articles?
Yeah, I think we probably need another meeting in any event, whether it's next Monday night, February 29th, or the March 14th. Is that?
She's
out there. Yes.
Would you be away on the 14th?
no, I'm going to be home those days.
Or the 29th?
Yeah.
You mean?
29th makes most sense for any time
I'm
sensitivity.
good. I'm good with the 29th.
29th's better for me because I'm traveling those 2 weeks as well.
Okay, let's go with the
So
29th.
we'll take up the tabled matters on as many as we
Absolutely.
can on the 29th.
Yes.
Before we leave budget.
Check that.
May I ask that we ask Bonnie, because she does always an admirable job of preparing the finance sheets for us, budget sheets, when we have our joint meetings, to include in there a column or two that takes us down the road of what I've asked about not raising to the levy. And I've asked that rather than we look at 2.5%, we look at 1.5%. So if we could have some numbers based on 1.5% instead of 2.5%, and then what the difference would be to the average household, the average residents as we usually do, those numbers might be, so how much less we would ask each average household in taxes in the FY17. And it gives us a bit more point observation
Gotcha.
and comparisons. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Item 8B, May 2nd, 2016 annual special town meetings. We have 6 articles we can talk about here. First being capital plan amendments.
And I think that the PMBC, the facility working group is still finalizing their.
Kind of hold off. I was going to say that we haven't got the univent.
It looked like we might, yeah. So let's do that on the 29th.
Gotcha.
Although we may have to do it on March 7th, because that's when we're meeting jointly with the school committee and finance committee on operating budget, and
I'll
probably
reach out
bring
to
them.
Steve Moore to see if we can, I know, how's Michelle working out with that reconciliation?
Doing really well. We've been busy with the audit going on right
Okay,
now, but I
all
know
right.
that I think they're pretty close.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is just reconcile previous budgets that were approved at town meeting for capital, at the infrastructure meeting, so that's kind of holding us up, that group up anyways. All right, so Article 6, the Park and Rec Enterprise Operating Budget. Anyone here for Park and Rec?
Just earlier.
They were here, but they didn't stay.
Any issues here, Bonnie?
No, this is basically their, they didn't present, a budget with an increase in staffing or anything like that. They are changing some of their staffing around, but this represents based on what programming that they're going to keep included, all of the staff that they have in place now, the general fund subsidy, which is just increasing by the amount of the COLA and steps that they need to incorporate within their budget. But everything else is self-sufficient, maintains the same level of service.
Comments, members? Mr. DeCoste? Good? All right, Article number 7, capital items available from available funds. Let's hold off on
Yeah,
that
that's
with
one
the
we
other
should
one
hold
also.
off. Actually, on the first one that was on, which was the special town meeting, we should,
That one's okay. yeah.
Okay.
we should probably discuss that one, which was a minor change of moving $12,000 around.
Oh,
This is
the-
the special town
gotcha.
meeting warrant.
Yeah.
And the other was an appropriation that we had discussed with the planning board chair, which was to have the Board of Selectmen seek $25,000 for zoning bylaw consulting services. So, rather than charge those anywhere else where we don't have an appropriation, that there were at least 3 things that looked like they needed assistance on. The inclusionary zoning bylaw, which was part of the housing production plan, taking another look at the over 55 bylaw, which takes on even more significance based on the plan we saw earlier tonight, and had also been considered as an alternate for the Kimball property, and getting professional consultant assistance for looking at the sign bylaw. Again, the planning board majority was ready to take the sign bylaw report from 6 years ago off the table, dust it off, and move forward with it. And the suggestion that we made to them is that since it's been sitting there for so long, we really ought to have a process that re-engages the community in that document. And that's going to take some time, and it would be helpful to have some professional assistance, and we were thinking specifically of having the RKG consultants who are here anyway, helping on the master plan update, submit a proposal for that zoning work. So that's what that.
And the $12,000 is a, police department had allocated funds for crack sealing, had a balance left over. The infrastructure group was asking to use it for this parking lot out back. So asked the town to reappropriate from there to here. Questions?
So we're good with that one then? Can we have three?
You good? Okay, yeah, we're good with the special town meeting 3. The capital items, annual town meeting number 7 is what we're gonna
Table that.
table it. Bylaw amendments are,
Yeah, the personnel bylaw amendments we can talk about, that is Chuck and I can talk about them as personnel board members.
You're doing great.
That there are 2 things being accomplished in the recommendations from the personnel board. First is to implement a 2% salary schedule adjustment for almost all of the salary schedules, the permanent positions, the call fire department, some of the other positions. And the only exception was for the park and rec schedules, C and C1. We wanted to specifically implement the new state minimum wage of $10 an hour, and to make sure that we were building from in those schedules, which were right, some of them were below, they were $9 or less. So we wanted to establish the new minimum. This is in Schedule
In order to
C and
comply.
C1 on pages
9 and 10.
yeah, 9 and 10, that we would establish $10 per hour as the grade 1, step 1 figure, and then it goes on up from there.
questions, members?
This is just to keep us in compliance,
Compliance with what?
minimum wage law.
Oh, it's down the lower end, but
Yeah.
where's the 2% come from?
The 2% is what
That's
all of the
Schedule A.
union contracts were entered in, or,
Schedule A.
yeah, Schedule A,
I
and
know it's the schedule.
2% came from was what, year 2 of the 3-year agreements were with all the unions.
We keep the non-union, the COLA's the same as the union contract.
Do we have a financial policy on that one? I mean, if we're going
Yeah,
to say it.
Well, you did, in fact,
codify it.
your policy, your budget goals that you set in September included the level service at including the 2% contracted rate. And in fact, the 2% figure is found in the budget requests.
I get that piece. I'm just looking at this too. When the personnel board sat and met and looked at all this sort of stuff, that was just an easy kill for them. So there was no analysis, that's why 2% is
No.
the right number.
No, the reason it was the right number is because the Board of Selectmen had entered into 3-year agreements with the unions at 2 and 2.
Any other questions? All right, so Article number 17, tax title of butter sales. I see 2 properties listed, both under the $4,000 square feet
Yeah.
size.
2 parcels that were expressed interest by others.
Right, so, again, no building, no combination, we gotta make sure that that gets adhered to. To have those deed restrictions. Members, questions?
No, as long as they're deed restricted,
Yep.
not to be joined.
Yep. And the bylaws specifically spells all that out, I just wanna make sure that gets, moved forward. And the Article number 19, we had a amendment, presented at,
The zoning board of appeals requested that you amend the that the town code be amended to strike the section on cover fence for swimming pools, because the state building code has since superseded that language, that there was a time that Littleton was in the forefront with that regulation, and the state building code now covers it all. And so both our building commissioner concurs, as well as our homegrown chairman of the state building code board, Rich Crowley.
So essentially, there's no need for it.
No, it's now redundant, so we can safely take it out.
Any issues, questions? All right, I'd look for a motion for Article 3, 6, 9, 17, and 19.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to insert the following articles onto the warrant for the May 2nd, 2016 annual special town meeting, subject to approval as to form by town council. Special town meeting 3, FY 2016 capital plan amendments. Annual town meeting 6, FY 17 FY 17 park recreation enterprise fund operating budget. Annual town meeting 9, personnel bylaw amendments. Annual town meeting 17, tax title of butter lot sale program, list of parcels. Annual town meeting 19, town bylaw amendment, swimming pools.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, our last item, the administration of performance appraisal system, Board of Selectmen employees, town administrator, fire and police chiefs. So, again.
You want a full board?
Yeah, we should have a full board for this too. You're right. Let's do it, let's do the other contracts. Yeah.
Well, I should give them all to Joe.
All right, I'd look for a motion. No minutes.
I owe you those. Sorry, I just forgot to
Motion to
include them.
adjourn. And moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, good night, everyone, thank you very much.
I just had signatures.
Thank you.